I mean, the question there would be, what is the measure of validity?
I don't know. Also, the disparaging statements and the generalities once again jump in. Dude, there's a PhD over at Ethicos who's recently flipped, and he worked for the frigging government. He's like a frigging secret agent. He was like, he knows passcodes that he's not allowed to tell us and stuff. Now, either he's lying, but I'm pretty sure we can go check up his credentials and you can go find him. He doesn't want to make it too public, obviously, but it's public enough. Like, everyone knows his full name, so. Do you recognize that this sort of disparity? Sorry, whatever. That like your critique is not really valid.
Yeah, there's multiple PhDs over there. You have Bennett, you have Dr. Bennett, you have Dr. Mike, you also have Stephen Young.
PhD in what, though? I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt, but there's a lot of people who might have a PhD in theology, but then decide to start making claims about a
Bennett was
different area.
Bennett was in physics, PhD nuclear physicist Stephen Young, right? So, yeah, I mean, one of them was, I think Dr. Mike was,
computer scientist.
Yeah, computer sciences.
It's
But,
too bad
yeah.
they're not confident enough to come here and explain things to those of us who actually are out in the field doing measurements.
What are you talking
You're
about?
welcome.
He just did a presentation the other day and he showed up.
And then they disappear. Where are they now?
Robert Bennett has done plenty to show up.
Hey,
Stephen
MR?
Young has a whole channel dedicated and has written books about it. Like, okay.
Mark?
Flat earth, by
Maybe
the way. You keep saying, but none of them are flat earth, so that's just something you keep missing or ignoring the fact. Bennett is not a flat earther, at least, correct? So
Bennett, I think, has an ether theory though.
ether is not flat. So
He's certainly geocentrist. He's
Stick with
geocentrist, and he is ether. Yes, geocentrism and ether. He said he will not discuss flat Earth publicly.
Yes. There you go. That's my thing.
Yeah, and you could
you guys
why.
keep ignoring about. You keep saying he's a PhD.
No, we're not ignoring it. You realize that flat Earth, if it is a flat Earth, that they would have had to have take a completely different avenue for many different areas of science, like the speed of light, how it travels through different mediums, like the composition of the universe. Like there's so many different areas of science that depend on some foundational assumptions, and these people facilitate with the alternative. Doesn't mean they have to have a position on the Earth. They can just be alternative science.
They do.
People.
So Dr. Bennett, at least, public openly says, flat. He doesn't believe in flat Earth. It's wrong. That he just said it as a statement from himself. I'm not making anything up. Go watch.
When did Dr. Bennett say that?
It was one of the visit videos.
Okay. Is it one of those things?
When I asked him personally, and he was in this room, he said that he doesn't take a position on the shape of the Earth because it's not a scientific question. You can't actually look and know on the whole shape of the Earth. Like, yes, you can verify like certain areas, but if the sky is of a different composition, if it has matter instead of vacuum, and there's containment, then you would be making a larger claim. And he said it's not a scientific question, so he's not going to take a position on it. What he can do
that means a lot, no? So
what he can do is he can measure within physics, and he can testify to it that we are from a stationary position, and that the lab frame is the baseline. And so, from his expertise, he can say that that's his position.
But that's another thing when you say expertise. It's an interesting one. He is one person, or I don't know.
Yeah, one of many. Absolutely,
one of many. But again, one of the many probably doesn't fully understand. But you get things like Yasukeh, which is I would say we don't have anyone who knows relativity better than him, which he laughs at the idea. So which one do you go for? Someone like Yasukeh, which has way more experience in the field, especially.
You can go with whoever you want, man.
Yeah, that's not the case. But you guys keep saying you have a PhD, someone with a PhD with this.
Well, that's the discussion. We're not appealing to PhD.
But you are.
Someone else brought it up. This is just part of the discussion.
What's it like, dude? This has got nothing to like. This whole idea of the shape of the Earth is actually not the big thing that we should be talking about. It's just recognizing that you can and I think are being lied to on a cosmological scale about the nature of reality and why we're here and what's going on. If you guys want to bloody pigeonhole it into like just looking at the shape, I mean, go for it. But there's a whole bunch of other questions that we have as far as the orthodoxy by which society seems to be operating by. Yeah.
You know, that's a really good point, because typically the adversaries to things that might go against what they were taught in school, right? Like the mainstream narrative. If you disprove or you have good valid evidence that certain aspects of our reality, our cosmology, maybe things that we've been taught about, the way that we visually see the world and all these things, if you start to break down those walls, the immediate knee jerk is, well, it doesn't prove that the earth is flat. This doesn't prove the earth is flat. You can't prove your flat earth with this, that, or the other. But the problem is this whole conversation is opening up so many doors to so many different conversations and facets of science that everybody wants to draw it back solely to the shape of the earth once they start to get a little scared that their foundation of what they think they know about their reality is starting to shudder at all.
Okay, so here's the thing. I don't think we are bringing it back to the shape. You are bringing it back to the shape. That's my observation. I'm not saying you're doing it, so don't get me wrong.
Oh, I mean, I can show you that the government lies to you, man. Yeah.
Okay, that has nothing to do with the shape.
Well, then, but you said that we're bringing it back to the shape, right? And I said, well, let's go talk about how the government lies and how religions lie to you.
Lies.
And then you said it's got nothing to do with the shape.
No, because I'm just jumping. I know you are going to connect it to this. Okay, what does government has to do with anything? Government lies. I know. Did I say government doesn't lie?
Okay, so they come up with regulations that basically are enforced through their laws. Yeah, and those regulations are based on quote unquote science.
Also,
so this is how this cake is. This is how this piece of shit's being made.
Okay, so this is like, you jump in different places. Okay, what does government has to do with anything? Government lies and
government's in charge of propagating the ideas to begin with through the school system.
What
right?
ideas?
So propaganda
What
can be inserted into that curriculum to get people to think a certain way.
I disagree with that to an extent.
Dude, grants go to the idea they want to support. If I want to come and support something that goes for our ideas, I'm not going to get grants for that.
Okay, no. The school I went to, school I went to.
It's a good example too.
There were certain things the government enforced. Okay, the government was enforcing. Not happy. It's the fucked up government my country have, and I admit it's really fucked up. Okay, but as an example, the way physics was taught to us, chemistry was taught to us, has nothing to do with the government. With just by science, but
it's within the curriculum. Here in Australia, the curriculum is controlled by government agencies. Period.
Is Australia same as where I'm from?
Don't know, but most of the world, particularly the Western world,
no, really no.
All of them actually, yeah. They've got curriculum set out by the government.
Also in UK, I can tell you, no, it's not the good. Here's the thing: you keep saying government. Okay, maths is maths. What government has what country government has over it, as an example.
There's different types of math.
I can
think of math. 2 + 2 = 4. No matter where you go.
Math is taught in the United States completely changed a decade ago. So the application of math and how it is taught to students, meaning the way that they approach math, changed completely due to government.
Common Core.
Okay, so when you say that, okay. This is the thing I'm saying. Maths is maths. No matter where you go on this planet, maths is maths. Agree? Algebra is algebra.
No.
A plus B equals C, or sorry, A2 plus B2 equals C2. You telling me, said no?
But it's literally a global empire. It's literally a global empire. You're saying that you can go anywhere outside of the empire, and the math is all the same, bro.
Okay,
dude, you got it.
You get to my previous one when I said I'm jumping ahead.
We
maths
can't
is
hear
maths
what
no
you're
matter
saying.
where you go. Yes or no?
We can't hear. Dude,
so,
you can't ask questions and then continue to talk. Nobody can hear what you're saying, and it's not a conversation. You have to let people
You're not giving me the
hear your
answer. You're not
question,
answering my
and you
question.
continue to talk over me while I'm telling you that you need to refrain from that. Like, if you can't control yourself, we'll just have to put you on mute, respond, open your mic back
Carry
up,
on.
and mute you again. We don't want to do that. So now you've diverted away from this, right? You're saying math is math regardless. Math is not science. We were talking about science. So now you're diverting away from that. And government does control and regulate all of the curriculum, even so much as that propaganda can be put into subjects where it's completely irrelevant information, but is put into the questions that are theoretical for other topics, meaning they can implement certain questioning for a topic that is not related to, let's say, climate science or global warming or climate change, but in your economics class, a question that you have on your test or within your pretest or examples given within your textbooks could allude to things related to global warming and the like, right? So there's so many different facets of how propaganda can be layered into education, and all of that comes through the edicts of government, unless you know of a country that doesn't set regulations on their curriculum.
Finished? Are you finished?
Yeah, he's done,
Okay.
man. You don't need to
Okay, it's
emphasize it.
done. Okay, no, because I think I need to. Otherwise, it sounds like I'm jumping on other people, which I'm not. None of the things you said answer my question. So maths is not a science. I get it. Okay, is chemistry a science?
Yes, chemistry is a science, but here's the
Okay,
thing.
then.
The
Oh, no, wait,
explanation as
wait.
to what's
I wasn't
taking
finished.
place in chemistry.
I wasn't finished. I wasn't finished. I'll let you
You
talk. I
were. You
wasn't
asked a
finished.
question, man.
No, I
You
wasn't
just didn't
finished. I
like
was
my
about
answer.
to.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just ask you: is chemistry a science? Is a yes or no?
It is.
And can okay, good. Okay, now
What,
chemistry,
what does that mean?
the chemistry you learn, the chemistry they teach in US is the same thing that the chemistry they teach in UK. It's the same thing. The chemistry I taught it. They
Mhm.
taught me back in Iran.
Mhm.
What does government has to do with it? Government didn't
Yeah,
control the chemistry.
it's hold on. It's the
No,
government explanations as to what's taking place within the chemistry, which can be and are open for discussion as to the chemical processes, why they take place, the inherent properties of things is in question.
H2O. Yes, we agree. It's water. H2 helium.
Disagree.
Disagree.
Oh my God!
Water is water.
Everywhere on this planet,
Water is water.
water is water. Okay, everywhere on this planet you go, if they ask what is water, they would say it's H2O.
Yeah, that's because of your weird scientific paradigm.
Oh, so okay, so
It's actually
okay, so
indicative of
what
global
is
empire.
Well,
it's a global
let's
empire?
ask him what his conception of what hydrogen is. So, what is hydrogen?
What is hydrogen? What did they teach in school? It's the same thing we learn as the same thing you learn. Okay, let's
So,
talk
are you
about
going to answer that or not?
Yeah. How
what
do
do you
you
mean?
know how do you know that water is made of hydrogen and oxygen? How do you know that?
It's what they taught us back in the school.
Exactly. So you don't know it.
But it's no
You're just reciting from the
no
textbook, dude. And that is
no no
actually the
no no
trappings of what we're trying to point out here, dude. Like these are
It's
the
not a trap.
trappings that they set up
It's a
for you.
trap. Where did no?
And
Okay,
now
so
you
here's the
believe
thing.
something that you've got no substantiation for.
No, I have a
What they
perfect way
taught
of
us
putting
about
it.
hydrogen, what they taught us about hydrogen back in Iran, is the same thing what they teach you back in US. It's what was something you learned in Australia. You
You
tell
keep
me the
pointing out
entire
global
planet,
empire.
the entire planet decided at some point a textbook which can be so much different throughout the years and years. They decided, okay, from 100 years ago or whatever years ago, X many years ago, sat down and said, okay, within the entire planet, we're going to fool everyone, tell hydrogen is not what you think.
No,
No,
it
no, no.
actually has
So
changed. So
here's
the atomic
I'm
model is
lost.
not what you were taught anymore, or at least it's not what I was originally taught in school. It's changed. So yeah, things changed. And guess what? Just because they're did you ever take a class, actually, since we're talking about school, did you ever take a class on like logic and critical thinking? Because what you're doing right now is going against the ideas of logic and critical thinking, because you're putting forth a logical fallacy, which is an appeal to authority, and another one called appeal to consensus.
No, I have a perfect way of putting it that doesn't have anything to do with arguing about atomic theory or anything. So let's say that everything about H2O, hydrogen, atomic theory, all of that stuff is correct, right? There's a difference between the macro lens and the micro lens. So observing one phenomena, you can observe it at the tiniest minuscule detail, and you can also observe it at the broadest scope detail and everything in between. But the question is, like, you are never going to be able to learn every single thing about every single aspect of water, as an example. Like, you're not going to learn about all these different forms of water aside from gas, solid, liquid, even though there are other forms that water could take, as an example. So in this sense, the way that something is taught of giving you this particular lens of thinking about water in a atomic theory, as an example, will influence the way that you are taught. A good example of this would be that, there are certain school systems like the Waldorf school curriculum structure that doesn't teach kids how to read until they're like 7 or so. And they specifically do that to keep children more in the symbolic world as opposed to the like the literal, like, written world. And they specifically do that as a good thing. So in the sense of reading is, could be said to be a good thing, but the way that you teach it, when you teach it, all of these things changes the way that somebody views the world. And so the structure in which, even if everything you're teaching is pure fact, the structure in which it is being taught, what ages it is being taught, directly influence the worldview that somebody has, which is a form of propaganda. And that is something that is essentially globalized in form.
I hear you. The part I'm not getting really, the part I'm not getting is when you're saying government control. I just want to know, when we talk about chemistry, what does my government has to do with chemistry?
They enforce the curriculum. There's not a single modern Western country that doesn't have a government enforced curriculum as the general rule.
Country.
So just simply, you could say that there's a regulation of chemicals permitted within the population, right? So you want to know how they control chemistry? There you go.
What?
What you're allowed, like what government? So you're aware, like, I mean, if you're familiar with the US, marijuana still a Schedule 1 drug. Can't do any research funding from the government for that reason.
Yeah, in that sense, it's
we're talking about school. We're talking about school and education in school.
Yeah, and doing different experiments with different substances could be something that is impactful for your education. And so because some substances are illegal, you can't do experimentations with them because of like safety concerns or whatever, which would influence the way that people are taught.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the way what I'm trying to get at here in conversation with you, my man, is that it's not about what to think. It's more about the how to think of these aspects and like how they get away with the lie.
Listen, as I said, government lies. Get it? I agree. I'm not denying the fact. Okay. Still, what I'm not getting, and I've heard you saying this a number of times, you said, oh, education bad, education is this, education is that. Okay. My problem is, I keep saying to you is, yes, maths is not a science, I get it. Okay, that's fine. I'm not arguing it. But again, maths always everywhere on this planet, you go, maths is maths. Okay. There are different ways, different levels they're teaching you. Okay. It's maths. I learned physics about 30 years ago, give or take. Okay. And I'm helping my kids with their physics. It's the same thing I learned 30 years ago. Gas law is gas law, gravity is gravity. They're all the same. Cool. It was just a different way of teaching. I learned in a different way. They learned in a different way.
Great. So you're still inside the empire, and you're commenting on the curriculum and the quality of it. I tell you what, man. Like, you can say that math is math, and math is the same all around the globe, right? But the issue is that you actually what ask yourself, like, what could be potentially missing from the math curriculum that's not being taught? It's not about
Computer
what you
science is
are
computer
being taught, it's about
science.
what you're not being taught. And the absence of information is a lot more difficult to detect, because you'll just look at math and the curriculum and say, oh, look at all this math. Look at all these different types of math. But you actually, like, there could be an absence of some particular type of mathematics that might be quite useful in us, for us to actually dissolve this empire that's been built up around us. But you
Okay,
won't
let's
know
sit and
that. You
discover
won't
it. Okay,
explore
no,
it because
let's
you
sit.
think all options have already been explored.
No one, I don't think, I'm not saying all the options has been explored. I don't think anyone in this room would suggest or even remotely suggest everything has been explored. The whole idea of science is we don't know anything, we don't know everything, we're just trying our best, we're doing our best. I'm in computer science, my degree is in computer science, well, I've got and maths, so I know this, and I'm doing my PhD right now, so I know these sort of things. I should know. I'm studying like mad, okay? You're not in computer
Good for you,
science,
man.
there's no one claims this, I'm doing AI at the moment, as you guys have been upset a number of times, and not claiming we know all of it. We just keep finding number of things. Things keeps popping out. Okay, why? Because research. Because in science we don't know everything. That's not the claim, and I don't think
What?
that
AI?
anyone is.
Well, whatever's coming out of AI, you would recognize, right, that this is the most powerful tool that's being provided down for human beings. Like, it's kind of like this is the reinvention of the internet.
It's
That's going to be controlled by the central banks, right? They're not going to release something that would cause too much chaos for their control. Like, they would have outlawed this, just like they're
let me
trying to
be.
outlaw guns.
Mm. Okay, I heard this a lot and I kind of hate it. Okay, I can give you a very good example. A lot of people say, "Oh, AI is this, AI is that." Yes, AI has been around, but suddenly evolved. No one denies that. Yeah, OpenAI, prime example. But it's not what you think it is. It's clever, it is, but it's not as clever as you think it is. It is.
Right? I agree. It appears to
It's
be more
just a
clever
hype.
than what it actually. Sorry, you
There's a lot of hype
might have
around.
dropped
I
out.
was going to say, sorry to cut you, but there's a lot of hype around it.
Yeah, sure,
It's not
because it's
as
going to
clever as
be
it is.
it's going to take all your white collar people, and they're going to be redundant now. Everyone's going to run back to the
No.
blue collars. Well, it's just an
Well,
option, maybe, right? And I just want to point out, I was thinking about this before and didn't quite get a chance. There was other things that I wanted to say, but there's a fella that's running around on these forums. His name's Rick. He usually has a like a Goku icon. Really good at math. Studied math. I think he has a master's in flat earther. He, like, in his exploration into this topic in general, I can't articulate. Maybe someone else who's already listened to him here could articulate it better than I can. But there's a whole different way that we can think about circles. Like, this whole notion of pi is a narrowing of the, like, geometry and the understanding of how circles work. And he's got a completely alternative way that still describes what a circle does and how it behaves, but you don't need pi. And his hypothesis is essentially is that this controlling of the education system, the way that we just think about circles and pi, is a sort of like a force feeding of the way to think about that geometry. And it's sort of the consequences of it is to, I think, I'm just saying, like, there's a lack of like different alternative ways of thinking about how circles work, and it actually leads to globe. Like, this is a sort of, I don't know how to finish off what I'm trying to say.
if that's really the case, have you ever had
Yeah.
a Fields Medal? It's in the world.
No.
It's the
Oh
biggest event.
God, here we
It's
go. If
all
he
the
would have discovered something, then he would have gotten a Nobel
no,
Prize or a Fields Medal.
Classic.
no. But why not? No, why not? And it's not anything. It's nothing to do with what you think. It's basically it's the highest
Okay.
you can get in maths. Only
P
a
Diddy got a
handful of
whole
people
bunch
have
of
it.
awards for his music, bro. Right? But you
This is
recognize what's going on
different.
there.
This is different. This is no. This is for people for
No, it's
genuinely for the
controlled,
people
man.
with the highest level of maths. No, it's not control. It's just
Very
you
controlled.
need to be some super genius to get this medal. It's nothing.
If I
to do.
made
It's
the
not like
best
Nobel
movie
Prize.
ever, would I ever get an Oscar?
Nothing. That's a bad comparison. Come on, dude.
Have you seen The Room?
It's a bad comparison. It's just it's a bad example. You're telling about someone like a super genius, like seemed like zeros and ones in terms of
Knowledge is
math.
power, right? Geniuses have knowledge. Knowledge is power. Would you not use that knowledge and power, these super geniuses, to actually manipulate a bunch of other people to do your bidding?
No, but
You come up with
I know
certain
one
ways of
person.
thinking that limit the way that other people think in order to sort of basically turn them into a cog.
I know one person who won it very recently, and it was sort of close to me, close-ish to me, and she was a super genius. Unfortunately, she died of cancer, but she didn't use it on anything. She was just a normal teacher. Actually, she was Iranian, but she was in USA. She left Iran because of all the craziness over there, and she won Fields Medal, which is, like I said, it's kind of Nobel Prize, but it's only a handful of people have this because they only give it to really, 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 really people special, knowledgeable people in maths.
Since
And they
you've done a
actually
lot of
fixed it before.
since you've done a lot of schooling, have you read The Structure of Scientific Revolutions by Thomas Kuhn?
I started it. I don't know who suggested it. It might have probably been you, actually, or someone. I
Uh,
can't remember. I haven't. No, I'm gonna be honest. If I say yes, I'm gonna be lying to you. No, it's in my to-dos. But to be honest, right now there's a lot of other things I need to read.
yeah, that's fair. It's
Um,
commonly taught in
yeah,
a lot of like 101
I think
classes in
you.
college.
I think
What's it
you
called?
told me that.
Repeat it for me, sorry.
Structure of Scientific Revolutions by Thomas Kuhn. Essentially, just going over the paradigm for how things will like change over time and the resistance to change within certain fields. You'll often see a lot of people saying the idea of like, oh, nothing's going to change until people die. That's kind of a topic that's sort of discussed there.
Yeah, Brett Weinstein does a pretty good take on that sort of stuff too.
I
I think he's
the link for
probably
the
talked about it.
Sorry, man. Sorry. I didn't mean to jump. Okay, go ahead.
I know you're good. But essentially, it's that even if somebody comes up with some sort of new paradigm that is true, it's actually more likely that they will be shunned for a long time until certain other prerequisites happen that eventually gets it to become accepted. Obvious example being given is that like child mortality rates was like really, really high. And this one doctor suggested that people wash their hands before they help somebody give birth. And this dude was made fun of, vilified, put in a psych ward for this idea. And then, 30 years later, it's like, oh yeah, he was right. But like,
What is that
because
story? Do you think like back in the Middle Ages they weren't washing before they the midwives, whatever that
this is like
they just wouldn't-
1800s,
Yeah,
early 1900s.
I know, but it's like
Engelweiss.
people had showers and washed back in the Middle Ages, man. Like this whole idea, I don't know, it seems a bit peculiar to me.
So I would say, Tarek, that the late 1800s, early 1900s was probably the most dirty time in human history. Like the most polluted, the most like, because you don't have the traditional methods. All of the traditional methods of
Doesn't mean they weren't
things were
washing,
broken
bro.
off. But then you had all of these extra things that just made everything really dirty.
Yeah, Ricky,
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
It was a doctor who followed the doctors. They followed them from the morgue to the pregnancy ward without washing their hands. So that was the problem. Imagine working on a body, a cadaver.
I have a lot of trouble, man. Like it's either we got real dumb somehow, and then like what we're observing is like this, coming back into the knowledge that I don't know how we freaking built pyramids and stuff, but we didn't sort of have a concept of washing our hands before sort of assisting in the birth of someone.
For sure,
it's just such an odd sort of.
I mean, you could say that like the late 1800s, there was so much destruction of tradition, to where people were not doing all of these traditional things that would have all of that knowledge built up. So people were having to kind of learn things from scratch, or that a lot of the things that they were taught were actively against, there's no reason to wash your hands because convenience or something.
Yeah, Ricky, are you familiar with Florence Nightingale? They say the modern day nurse is modeled after her. So essentially, when she went to the hospitals, they had dead horses in the water. It was a complete disaster, a mess. And she was instructed, she was given the duties of making it hygienic again. So this was the practice. A lot of people, because they were given misinformation, they were set back, right? So had they read
Yeah,
the information that was available to them, they would have known how to, and they would have prevented a lot of death.
yeah. There's something to be said about the Industrial Revolution and the sort of exposure to these sort of novel chemicals that the body's never seen before, and creating all these problems. And then, like, apparently, if you create that problem and then you solve it later on, you're given credit as like being the founder of this concept of simply washing your hands before you, like, assisting in a childbirth. I don't know. Something got like
Leviticus,
in like, so the washing your hands and germ, like the whole germ theory paradigm. I don't know, man. Sounds to me
well,
like it might be it's sort of like a fugazi.
it is Rixky. It's based on wrong information. Next time you see Fundy in this room, ask him. He said he was taught in modern day textbooks that nobody knew about running water, washing their hands with running water. But I corrected him. Leviticus 15.
Well, I think he has the same sort of incredulity that I have about this notion of people not really understanding apparently anything about cleanliness prior to the turn of the century.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I couldn't blame him, right? He's just going off of what he was told in his textbooks. But the textbooks were inaccurate because it was definitely written down thousands of years ago. Leviticus 15 is a perfect example.
I think they sacrificed that ram goat thing and spread the blood on the ears a couple of chapters in Leviticus later, don't they?
That was a great one. Thank you, Rixky. I didn't know about that one. Thank you.
That was a doozy.
Yeah. So perfect example of misinformation being dangerous. And then we had the authorities. Remember how many decades we had doctors telling us there were no links to one company's product to cancer? They literally lied to Congress. So people are willing to look people in the eyes and lie.
I mean, the entire field of Alzheimer's research for like 40, 50 years was based on to literally fraudulent studies. And all of the research on Alzheimer's for that entire time was based on this mechanism that was entirely based on fraud. And so, all of the research in Alzheimer's is just going to be completely pointless for that entire time. And nobody actually thought to check and see, oh, hey, is this actually legit?
What do you think causes Alzheimer's?
I would say fluoride has a very big part in it. There would be a lot to say that. There are a bunch of specific things you can do to get rid of Alzheimer's, which would give a good sense into what is there. Another thing would also be a lot of people who have Alzheimer's generally don't have good lymph function, which would also come from just not moving around a lot, not sweating a lot, because lymph drainage is just very important for everything. And so if you're not having that, that would be a big thing.
Yeah, and what about cholesterol? I heard there was a link to people with Alzheimer's and a lack of cholesterol or fat in the brain. So I think that's why some people are turning to coconut oil for people with early signs of Alzheimer's.
Yeah, would make sense. Apparently, people that smoke nicotine have significantly lower rates of Alzheimer's. People smoking more than 21 cigarettes a day had half the risk of developing dementia.
Nice, so I'm good.
Yeah, I'm seeing a study right here on what you were saying about cholesterol is that
Sorry, what
eating,
did you just say? I forgot.
Wait, is it because of good one? Is it because of nicotine's neuroprotective qualities?
the specific mechanisms being shown here are decreases amyloid peptide secretion, chelates copper, reducing oxidative stress, and reducing amyloid aggregation and precipitation.
Are you sure it just doesn't kill them off before they get old enough to suffer from dementia?
I mean, it would be relative to age groups, so yeah, that wouldn't be valid.
I've also heard dehydration is a major factor in senior citizens' homes. One, because if they kept everyone hydrated or overhydrated, there would be a serious issue with taking them to the bathroom.
Yeah. But yeah, with what you were saying about cholesterol and Alzheimer's, is that eating eggs apparently decreases the risk of Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Every half egg cuts risks by 10%, and every 100 milligrams of cholesterol did the same. That seems like a lot of it has to do with just general metabolic health.
Yes, and actually, have you guys seen? I'll post the link. Some doctor, it's called the Bredesen Protocol. He's helped people reverse early Alzheimer's. He shares the testimony. There were women who were diagnosed with early Alzheimer's. He found that there were 37 triggering factors or factors that will exacerbate the issue. And if you address those 37 issues, it seemed that the body was healing up quickly, and it reversed. You can see the women talking very clearly. I'll post the link for you guys. His name is Dr. Bredesen. He's in the United States.
Yeah, everything that I'm saying on studies related to Alzheimer's that I'm saying does all point and indicate it to it being a metabolic issue, largely, or an issue that can be solved by improving your sort of metabolic baseline.
I agree. I've heard one doctor in Canada. She had a theory that Alzheimer's is diabetes of the brain. I don't know if that's true, but that was one doctor's take because they were taking rats and putting them in a vat with a small ledge, and they timed them to find out how fast they can find the ledge. And the rats that were given a regular diet were able to find the ledge within 5 seconds, but the rats that were given the standard American diet, included high fat and sugar, it took over 30 seconds.
That would point to a particular thing that I'm saying is that a big part of it is it's not having sugar, it's having the inability to metabolize or oxidize sugar and glucose, which would go back into the metabolic process. Is that if you're unable to actually metabolize what you're having, then that's a metabolic dysfunction, and that seems to be heavily related to Alzheimer's. The whole coconut oil thing. Coconut oil is something that pretty dramatically increases your metabolism, which would make sense if it was related to metabolic issues.
To add one thing about coconut oil, I suffer from, I think in English it's called neurodermatitis. It's a skin problem, and I started using coconut oil on my skin, and it really helped, and my skin is in really good condition right now after just one daily use of coconut oil for my skin.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing. That's great news.
Just to let everyone know, in an hour, I'll be streaming the ISS from my telescope.
You mean you'll be streaming a U2 plane? Got him.
I don't think it's
Tell
possible
him to give
for it
us
to
a
be a
wave.
U2 plane.
Yeah, going around the world 15.5 times a day. That's a fast plane.
Yeah,
That's not an issue.
And flying
I don't,
sideways
I
too.
don't, I don't think it could possibly be a U2 plane because I did the math, and with the angular size and angular velocity it's traveling at. Let me find the math right here. Yeah, so at the angular size and angular speed it's going, if it were a U2 spy plane, it would have to be 74 miles up, which is 5.3 times higher than the record height of the U2, and it would also be having to travel at 4,684 miles an hour, which is 9.5 times the plane's max speed.
What time is it where you are?
It's 7:29, and then the space station will disappear at 8:28.
What? It'll go into the horizon, or
No, it'll
you
hit
just
it'll
it
hit
won't
it'll hit the
shine?
shadow. When
What
it hits the
shadow?
Earth's shadow, it just disappears in the middle of the sky.
I suppose that's interesting. Yeah, right. Okay. What if it doesn't? Have you seen that
It
before?
will.
Where it just dips out?
Oh yeah, does it all the time. Especially for a pass this late in the evening, definitely. If
What
it
the hell
were
is that thing?
like 6 o'clock, like it usually is for the earlier passes, then it would go horizon to horizon. Because it's 8, I would expect it to disappear halfway through.
Cool. Look forward to it.
So if you're going to live stream it, I could triangulate your position based on exactly when you see it and come to your house.
Yeah, what you got to be creepy about it, don't you, Yasukeh?
It was just a matter of fact statement.
Duly noted.
Is that actually possible, or is there some missing variables there?
If you have any other reference point, like if you just get the ISS path and then the orientation, you could get a very clear range of where it would be. And then if you have essentially any other detail, you could make it pretty close within 100 meters.
Wouldn't you need the elevation and azimuth angles to a very high degree?
Nah. I guess that also would be a question of how they're filming it. Which is to say, yes.
For me specifically, yes, you would need accurate azimuth and elevation angles because I don't have a view of the horizon directly, so I can only see it as it passes above trees and things. So it disappears at the same time for everyone, but it won't. You'll have to know what azimuth and altitude it's appearing in, what second it is for you to do that. But a good thing is actually, fun fact with ISS is that pretty much everyone in the U.S. can see it all at once. So when I'm seeing it pass overhead, I'm certain that anyone else in the United States should be able to watch it pass over their heads pretty soon too.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, but you should see it at about the same time as me, just maybe a couple minutes apart. Assuming you are in the U.S., of course.
Los Angeles County is where I am.
Oh yeah, easily.
I'll get a glimpse of it here in about 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Yeah, it says I have a pass at 7:30 something, and then again at 9:10, I think it was.
Interesting.
It's still light where I am.
Yeah, the sun's down, but it's western sky.